Hello and welcome back. Let us continue with our next video in this series for Chapter 9 on reproduction and development. I'm Miss Delia, and if you're ready, let's get started with the lesson. Now, in the previous videos of this series, we've already gone into 9.1 and 9.2, and in this video, we're going to explore 9.3, fertilization and fetal development. This subtopic will be divided into two segments, which is the first, fertilization, and the second, fetal development. In this video, we're only going to focus on the first segment, which is fertilization. Let's continue. So these are the learning outcomes that I expect from you by the end of this lesson. I hope that you would be able to explain the stages that lead to fertilization and maybe even write an essay explaining it. But before we talk about the stages of fertilization, let us first give the definition. Fertilization, or in Malay, pensenyawaan, can be defined as such. It is the fusion of haploid male and female gametes to produce a diploid zygote. So, in other words, usually we can think of it as the fusion of the nucleus of the sperm and the ovum. Where is the occurrence site? Fertilization will occur within 1/3 of the fallopian tube, also called the oviduct. So it's usually around this area in the female reproductive system. The sperm will have to swim all the way here, fertilize the egg, and then continue with the embryogenesis. But we'll talk about that in the next video. For now, let's talk about the stages of fertilization. Now, it is divided into 4 stages, as you may have already guessed. The first stage is capacitation. The second is acrosomal reaction. The third is fusion of sperm head membrane and oocyte. And the fourth is cortical reaction. Now, it's not enough to just simply list them. Let's also try to explain what happens in each of these stages. Are you ready? Let's continue. So this first stage is capacitation. Capacitation is the functional maturation of a sperm through the female secretion in the reproductive tract. Meaning, dia masuk dalam badan perempuan, dia menjadi tahap yang dia paling matang. Paling matang atau dia sudah lengkap dari segi fungsinya. Okay? So now it's able to do all the things a sperm is supposed to do. At this stage also, the sperm motility will be increased. It's going to swim faster. And certain molecules on the sperm will be altered. Sesetengah molekul pada sperm akan berubah. Apa yang berubah? The molecules that are altered are cholesterol, glycoprotein, and the protein of the acrosomal cap. These will be removed. They are removed to prepare for acrosomal reaction in the next stage. Capacitation stage enables the sperm to penetrate the membrane surrounding the egg or the corona radiata. Selepas fasa ini, stage ini, baru dia dapat masuk tembus corona radiata pada secondary oocyte. Okay, so this is what happens when we talk about a removal of those molecules. Okay, beginilah cara sperm decapacitate. So a capacitated sperm, when the sperm are exposed to the female tract environment, seminal plasma coatings that are covering the head of the sperm, along with some of the surface molecules, are removed. When these things are removed, it will be exposing portions of the molecules that can bind to the zona pellucida of the oocyte. Dalam arti kata lain, dia masuk dalam reproductive tract wanita. Persekitaran dalam rahim itu akan menyebabkan molekul-molekul pada kepala sperm ini tertanggal. Bila dia tertanggal, baru dia boleh buat fasa ataupun action seterusnya. After capacitation, the sperm now has the capacity to penetrate the egg. Selepas stage ini, baru sperm itu ada capacity ataupun kemampuan untuk menembusi, memasuki telur. Okay, so the capacitated sperm will then move through the layers of follicle cells and reaches the zona pellucida. The zona pellucida is a jelly-like layer outside of the ovum. So kalau kamu ingat secondary oocyte dulu, kemudian baru zona pellucida. Lepas zona pellucida, dia punya corona radiata ataupun lapisan-lapisan follicle cell. Okay, so sperm akan berenang-renang-renang sampai kepada oocyte. Dia akan masuk, sisip-sisip, sampailah dia tersentuh zona pellucida. When it reaches zona pellucida, this triggers the exocytosis of the sperm's acrosome. Dia sampai sudah di zona pellucida, ini akan menyebabkan acrosome itu keluarkan exocytosis, apa-apa kandungan yang ada dalam acrosome. And that brings us to the second stage, which is acrosomal reaction. Acrosomal reaction is the binding between the complementary membrane protein of sperm head with specific receptor on the zona pellucida and leads to acrosomal reaction. Let's try to understand this sentence. Mungkin ada yang kurang faham ayat ini. Acrosomal reaction ini adalah binding between complementary membrane protein of sperm head with specific receptor on zona pellucida. Maksudnya di sini, kepala sperm itu ada reseptor. Pada permukaan zona pellucida yang warna purple di bawah ini pun ada reseptor. Bila reseptor pada sperm punya kepala berjumpa reseptor pada zona pellucida, that is going to lead to acrosomal reaction. Dia jumpa, okay, dia tahu, dia bersentuh sudah, dia akan start stage ini. Acrosome membrane will disperse or rupture. Membrane acrosome akan buka ataupun pecah. Then the hydrolytic enzymes are discharged from the acrosome into zona pellucida via exocytosis. Dalam acrosome itu ada hydrolytic enzyme ataupun enzim untuk menghadam sesuatu. Okay? Akan dikeluarkan kepada zona pellucida melalui exocytosis. These hydrolytic enzymes are hyaluronidase and protease, are also called as acrosome. So these are the two main enzymes that are found in the acrosome. When these enzymes are released, the zona pellucida is lysed or digested by the enzymes. So enzyme itu akan makan atau menghakis zona pellucida. And this enables the penetration of sperm. Ini membolehkan sperm untuk masuk. Okay, so once again, this is how acrosomal reaction would look. It's going to start by touching, and then it's going to rupture the acrosome and release the hydrolytic enzymes. So now let's look at what happens after the hydrolytic enzymes have lysed or digested most of the zona pellucida, and the sperm can reach the plasma membrane. When the sperm reaches the plasma membrane, it's going to go into stage 3. Stage 3 is the fusion of the sperm head and the oocyte membrane. Penggabungan membrane kepala sperm dan membrane untuk oocyte. At this stage, the sperm's head will fuse with the egg or secondary oocyte's plasma membrane. The fusion will trigger depolarization of the oocyte membrane. What is depolarization? Depolarization is a term that you're going to see time and time again, and it relates to the changing of the membrane potential between the inside and the outside of the cell. Depolarization in this example involves the opening of sodium channels in the egg plasma membrane. So akan ada sodium ion channel pada permukaan egg plasma membrane. Once these channels are opened, sodium ions will flow into the egg cell, depolarizing the oocyte membrane, and hence decrease the membrane potential. This depolarization prevents additional sperm from fusing to the egg plasma membrane. Long story short, this is a fast reaction to block other sperm from entering into the egg. Okay, kita tidak mau terlampau banyak sperm. So, bila sperm yang pertama sampai dan gabung dengan plasma membrane, dia akan menyebabkan keseluruhan plasma membrane oocyte itu berubah dia punya action potential atau membrane potential, sorry. So that is a depolarization. That depolarization of the oocyte membrane is going to be the fast block to other sperms. Now we're going to go into stage 4, cortical reaction. So cortical reaction, before we talk about the process, I want you to pay attention to these things called cortical granules that are very close to the plasma membrane. So kamu tengok ini, yang bulat-bulat ni dalam dia ada biji-biji biru. These are specialized vesicles that contain enzymes that are going to be useful in this stage. Okay, dia terletak sangat-sangat dekat dengan plasma membrane. Dia tunggu saja masa untuk dia berfungsi, yaitu pada stage ini. So, stage 4, cortical reaction is when the cortical granules release enzymes to the outside of the cell. Selepas fusion of plasma membrane, it is time for cortical reaction, so dia akan bebaskan. Bebaskan enzim ini kepada zona pellucida. These enzymes will catalyze change in the zona pellucida, which then functions as the slow block to polyspermy. So tadi saya cakap pasal fast block, this is the slow block. Dia lebih perlahan, tapi fungsi dia adalah sama untuk mengelakkan banyak sperm masuk ke dalam ovum. That is what polyspermy is. Polyspermy is when you have too much sperm going into the same ovum. How do these enzymes do their work? These enzymes will destroy the sperm's receptor at zona pellucida. So, di sini, bahagian purple ini tidak akan ada receptor untuk berjumpa dengan sperm punya kepala, sudah. Remember, if the sperm's receptor does not bind with the receptor at zona pellucida, then it will not start the acrosome reaction. Okay, so basically cortical granules punya enzim ini menyebabkan zona pellucida tidak dapat dilimpas oleh sperm. Now let's talk about what else happens during stage 4. So ini kalau itu sperm sudah masuk, dia sudah fuse dia punya plasma membrane kan, dia akan kelihatan seperti begini di bawah tu. Once the sperm nucleus enters the egg cytoplasm, the tail will fall off, and then it will simulate secondary oocyte to complete meiosis 2, and ovum is formed. Mari kita tengok diagram di bawah ni. Yang biru ini adalah nukleus untuk sperm. Ingat, kamu punya secondary oocyte, semasa ovulation and everything, dia masih dalam meiosis 2. Lebih spesifik, dia berada pada metaphase 2. So when the sperm's nucleus enters, it's still in metaphase 2, but it will immediately complete meiosis 2 and form an ovum. Okay, yang biru adalah nukleus untuk sperm. Yang pink di tengah ini adalah nukleus untuk ovum. Dan yang kecil di bawah ini adalah second polar body. So you can refer back to your notes on 9.3 for this. Okay, it will produce a second polar body, but don't worry, the second polar body will eventually disintegrate. So if it disintegrates, we are going to continue with the next part, which is the nuclei of the sperm and the ovum will fuse. So sekarang, yang biru dengan yang pink akan gabung. Bila dua nukleus ini bergabung sahaja, itu digelar persenyawaan. When the nuclei of the ovum and the sperm fuses together, that is fertilization. So fertilization will occur and a diploid zygote 2N will be formed. So just a very quick summary of what we had in this video. There are 4 stages in fertilization. It starts with capacitation, then acrosome reaction, then fusion of sperm head with the plasma membrane of secondary oocyte, and last but not least, cortical reaction. And that continues with fertilization, which is the fusion of the sperm head and the ovum. Fusion of sperm nucleus and the ovum's nucleus. So what should you do now? Now you should come up with your own short notes for this subtopic. It doesn't have to be a whole page. It can be very short, but make sure you are able to explain each of the stages of fertilization in your notes. And after that, please complete the tutorial question, Chapter 9, Part C, Question 2B. You can, of course, refer to your lecture notes while you are answering this essay. So that's it from me. I hope you'll continue with the next video on 9.3, and I'll see you again soon. Bye and happy